Hello and welcome to Fandom Friday, a podcast series devoted to various fandoms brought to you by the Ocean County Library's annual all-ages library con, Fan Nation, the Geek Extravaganza. My name is Sarah from Tom's River, and joining me today is...
Kira from Tom's River YA.
And Tom from Whiting.
For today's episode, we'll be discussing anime and manga. From slice of life to isekais, we're going to talk about all of our favorite characters and their stories. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. The first question that I want to absolutely just jump into is, what is your favorite manga to anime adaptation? There have been so many. I think a lot of times we're exposed to things first through the anime or something like that. And if you do like one, is there one also that you don't like that you felt like didn't do it justice?
My favorite is Bakuman. Have you ever read it?
I have. Yes, I have.
I've heard, someone told me it sounds very meta. It's a manga about manga. It was written by and illustrated by the guys who did Death Note. And it's a really great series. It's my favorite. But the manga was pretty much finished when they did the anime. So it follows the manga really well. And the art is an exact match to the manga art. So I just think like overall it's a really good series, and the music is great too.
It is. And honestly, it wasn't really one that I thought I would be drawn into because I do like more of the shonen anime, big actions and explosions. And I was like, okay, like you said, it's pretty meta, but the storyline was just really compelling. The characters were awesome. I love that, like, most of the time the life choices they make, I'm like, wow, like they just really like seize life, like carpe diem. So I thought it was incredible. That you're right, that was a great adaptation. How about you, Tom? Do you have any adaptations that you love or you hate, or maybe one that was adapted into live action that you really wish they didn't?
I would say probably Blue Exorcist would be one that I would be happy with. It was really good. The first season, really strong. I thought definitely eye-catching. The blue fire and everything is definitely the contrast. I typically like the isekai shonen like kind of grasp as well. So I tend to put more like faith into mostly action. Like I sometimes watch slice of life, but mostly I stick to action. So I thought that Blue Exorcist was just really good. I thought that like you said, the music really makes or breaks an anime, and I thought the music was really good. And there was a very good flair on it overall. I thought it kind of dropped off in season 2. You know, when they finish a first season of an anime and then they'll bring it back before acting like it never happened. Like, I don't like when they do that. So I didn't like second season as much, but I thought it was still pretty solid for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love Blue Exorcist. The second season, they kind of did that thing where they're like, we're just going to write our own storyline. And they deviated. And you're like, no, please, this is so bad. And then they tried to do the retcon thing where they did the Kyoto arc, actually, according to canon. It was just a mess. So anybody who didn't read the manga must have been so confused. But that being said, artistically, they did a great rendition. I do agree. One of my favorites is, I actually like some that I feel like were improved upon by being made into anime, those being Hunter x Hunter and One Punch Man. Both of those, the art style in the original manga is a little rough. One Punch Man has since now been taken over by different artists and everything like that, but the originals are always like a little rough. And then when they're made into the anime, they really clean that up. And then it allows the really compelling storylines to shine through. Then I would say one that is kind of the opposite is my favorite, which is One Piece. I think that if you read the manga and you'll see the very detailed artwork, and then you see the anime that is shapshod together, it's quite jarring, definitely. And I don't just mean like the older iterations, because obviously if you're watching an older anime, you don't expect it to be exactly up to snuff with modern animation standards. But I mean more in the sense of that it's very much a rush job sometimes, and which is a shame because I don't think that it does the story justice a lot of the times.
One anime that doesn't do the story justice is Ouran High School Host Club. That is such a long manga series, and they definitely started the anime before it was finished. So the ending is completely different, and they only made one season. For a manga that has 15 volumes, that's kind of sad.
It's so sad, and I won't spoil how it ends in the manga, but please, please, please go check it out, because The ending is incredible and you need to know the ending. So for anybody who's watched and loved the anime, please, please, please come check out the manga. We have it and it is just important to read. So speaking of that, we're sharing so many favorite genres and titles. We talked about how we like shonen. We talked about some shoujos. So what are your favorite genres and titles, Tom?
I like some of they're not exactly older, but they're not exactly like the new ones that are coming out lately. I like Full Metal Alchemist. That's super solid. I really liked Guilty Crown. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. That's actually one of my favorites. D. Grayman. That's actually a pretty large anime, D. Grayman. I watched that one. Sometimes I even dive into like the ones that are a bit more history based, like Oda Nobuna. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but pretty much a guy gets thrown back into the past. That one was really interesting as well. I really like it when they bring in history or mythology into like animes. I think it definitely brings a special aspect and brings it to life.
Oh my gosh, that just reminded me. I shouldn't talk about it because it's just off the cuff. But there's this one where this ancient Chinese war tactician comes into the future and then becomes the music manager for an EDM idol. I know it sounds crazy. It's probably one of the best animes I've ever seen. The voice acting is great. The music is incredible in it. And it's just all good fun. Like you think this is something that would go somewhere weird. The premise itself is weird, but the story itself is actually really touching. So I'll try to figure out what the name of that one is. But yeah, I also enjoy when they do something that's historical and it teaches you a little bit about real life. How about you, Carrie? You said that you like to read more than watch.
Yeah, I really like shoujo and josei. Usually I'll read slice of life, something like that. But sometimes I'll read shonen, like Bakuman, my favorite. But I read a lot of shoujo, like Library Wars, Love and War, Ouran High School Host Club, My Love Story. There's a new one we just got in YA called Run on My New Legs, which is very interesting. It's a slice of life. I'm not sure if it's shoujo or shonen. The main character is a boy. He's in an accident and he loses one of his legs. It's amputated. But it's very interesting because I feel like in manga and anime, you don't see too many people with disabilities. So it's really unique in that perspective, but really cool.
Absolutely. I think that that's something that I have been seeing change in the manga and anime world, but for a long time, there really wasn't a lot of not even, I would say that our current level standards of diversity and representation that we have in all of our literature could definitely be upped, but manga and anime in particular definitely needs some upping sometimes and certain types of representation. I do know a recent one that I read that I really, really loved was Boys Start the Riot or Boys Run the Riot,
Right.
that has a trans mass main character. It's an own voices story. And so far it's been incredible. It's still ongoing. And I know definitely we have that one on the shelf. So please check it out. Basically, like I said before, my favorite is going to always be One Piece. I'm a huge One Piece fan. And when it ends, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. That's been my life for 20 years or however long it's been running. But I think I like a good amount of shoujo. I think I like a good amount of shonen. I'm exposed equally to both. I'm not ashamed to like anything that's mainstream. When it comes to shoujos, I generally like ones with like kind of like brash, loud main characters, like ones that take charge of their own destiny, like Kami-sama Hajime Mashita is my favorite. I've also really liked a recent one, Romantic Killer, that came out. That one was incredible and a nice way to like flip the script. And yeah, I think I love a little bit of everything.
Looping back to what you guys said about the disability and the abilities and everything, I thought that the silent voice was very good. That standalone movie, very good, with a deaf girl. She got bullied and like the bully comes back and changes his ways, learns sign language to speak to her and everything. That was very touching to me. I definitely enjoyed that one. Cried a bit when I watched it,
I was just going to say, if you want to ugly cry, that's another one that you can check out. It also deals with mental health issues.
Yeah, that one was really good. And I also thought Ranking of Kings, I don't know if you guys saw that one, but yeah, Boji, he is also deaf, but he is very successful and he becomes the little king.
Yeah, I haven't finished Ranking of Kings, but I was absolutely loving it. And then I got to the point where I caught up and more episodes were out and I'm so bad about it. Once I move on to the next anime, I forget about going back to finish the last one.
Yeah. I technically said he was the king, but technically he isn't the king. He's my king, all right?
Boji is also my king. He's the right king. Absolutely. I agree. That it would be one world. We were talking about different worlds and everything like that. So if you did have to pick an anime or manga to be isekai, and for those who aren't aware, isekai, I mean, is when you're transported basically magically from your current mundane dimension, that would be here, to the magical dimension, whether that be a completely magical world or you're dragged into some world of fairies or demons. What world would you choose to be transported into if you had a choice? I could say for sure one I would not choose would be Attack on Titan. That, for example, is a bad one for me. I don't really think I would really mesh great there. That's the only reason.
Yeah, that one I definitely wouldn't want to be in. I definitely also wouldn't want to be in ReZero. A bit too dark, too much death. I mean, I wouldn't really feel comfortable being spit out there.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of really dark ones, unfortunately. And you have to think about, you're like, oh, well, I would love to live in Konoha, in Leaf Village in Naruto. But then you think, well, how does the regular civilian fare in Leaf Village? And you think, maybe that's not the best place for me without like the plot armor of being the main character. So for me, my choice would definitely be Pokemon, because I think that everybody seems real happy in Pokemon. If you go to the right era in Pokemon, you still have internet and all of our modern comforts. And it's essentially just the modern world, but there seems to be like no war. And also you get to have cute Pokemon. So I think it's the best of both worlds. And it's personally my favorite choice to be isekai'd into.
That's a good choice. I think maybe any world by Clamp, the XX Holic or Cardcaptor Sakura or Shaolin.
Oh, the one that follows the boy from Cardcaptor. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sorry. They're all in the same universe.
Yeah,
though.
they're all
Yes.
in the same universe. I really think that would be cool, but I'd probably just be some bystander that doesn't experience anything.
Yeah.
I think the magic of Death Note is cool, but I wouldn't want to be mentioned in the Death Note. Having that kind of power would be kind of cool. And then I think it would be interesting to be in the world of Dr. Stone, but it would be really difficult because I'm lazy.
Yeah. Like we're like, yeah, I really want to reconnect with nature, but I don't know if it's that much.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was on his side, if he was around, I was in his
Kingdom of Science.
Yes, exactly. If I was in his kingdom of science, maybe I would tolerate it. But if I reformed 1,000 miles away, I don't think I would really jive with that. If I had to make it on my own.
No.
Yeah, I like your examples though of Exaholic and Cardcaptor Sakura. I think those are mainly fun. There's a touch of magic, but it's usually pretty harmless, and they always get it in control by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So that's always fun. And there's always like cool artifacts and outfits. And you're right. That's absolutely a great one. I would love to be in that universe. How about you, Tom?
Pretty much anything that has a bit of action or like fantasy aspects to me usually like pops out. It's hard to try to get it to where it's not too dangerous to have fun. Like you said, Pokemon was a really good pick because you get your animals. You're not immediately any danger. It's more lighthearted and fun. So I'd probably do something like reincarnated as a slime, like something like that, where the world's nicer. I could just be in a little monster village just in case if I am just some like little NPC guy to the side that doesn't even get brushed on. At least I'm safe, like in this town.
Exactly. I always think when I'm watching Sword Art Online, I would be like, I'm the person that's staying at level 1. Maybe I'll venture up to like level 5 or something like that. But like, you guys, go ahead, have fun, trying to beat it, trying to get out. I'm cool chilling here. I'll be a little shopkeeper. I'll sell some swords or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I think those are safer. And like, I was thinking like, yeah, My Hero Academia, but then you look at the newer season and you're like, I don't know. I don't think I want to be there.
No, My Hero Academia in the newest season, definitely not. Before that, maybe, but now that everything's fallen apart, no, that would be a no. So you do have to, I think, watch the entire manga, watch the entire anime, read the entire manga before you make this isekai choice. It's very important. Speaking of that, and we're speaking of anime and manga characters that you love to hate. And since I wrote this question, I'm just going to break it down for you guys in case maybe you didn't grasp it. So this is a character that whenever they show up on the page or whenever they show up on screen, you're like, ooh, I hate you so much. You just hate them even more than you maybe should. My example was from Naruto would be Sasuke. Every time he shows up, I'm like, you're a jerk, please leave. I don't know why everyone's forgiven you. And then in Boruto, for me, it gets even worse. My feelings about him. Another one would be Eren Yeager. I do not stand Eren Yeager. So those would be the two characters that, and neither of those are villains. Both of those are pretty much protagonists, but I just love to hate them. And you can't talk me out of hating them. There's definitely villains that I also hate, but I feel like the story is designed for you to hate them. And you can talk about some villains that you definitely hate, if that would be your example. How about you, Tom? Do you sympathize with Sasuke?
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. I was just, I liked Naruto and the Naruto Shippuden, and then I was, all right, we're good, please stop. And then they brought out Boruto, and I was like, no, please. And then, Sasuke, the whole time, it's just Sakura in love with him and everything. I'm like, please, there is such better options everywhere, like literally everywhere.
Literally everywhere. Absolutely. Sometimes anime characters make choices and you're just not really sure why.
Yeah, there's a couple like good characters that I dislike, but definitely one of the more characters that I don't like that's actually a villain would be Hunter x Hunter Hisoka, because just next level weird. Like
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very valid one. There's lots of villains in Hunter x Hunter that I think have a lot of depth because you see them acting sometimes in anime, and I do like that. Sometimes, let's say in One Piece, a lot of the villains are just villains. Like they're just bad and they're just evil and they don't care. And that's just how it is. And for a lot of shows also, they do show like the duplicitous other sides of them. And that is definitely one there that you do see sometimes the other side of them. You see them hanging out with people, but Hisoka's definitely one that even when you see his other side, he's still evil. So even with him, he's with his friends, he's still bad. He's just always continually bad.
Yep.
Just in different ways.
One character I really don't like is Nakai from Bakuman. He's a manga artist. He never gets his big shot, but he supports writers. But all of his choices he makes are for failed love. Mm-hmm. So he just throws away his ability, like just so he could try to get girls. And it's like,
yeah,
it's such a waste of time.
Yeah, I remember that character. And I also remember that does happen sometimes in anime. You'll have that character that just cares so much about getting the girl in one way or another. And it really detracts from your character because there's so much more there that could be compelling. And instead they make that the main focus. And it's like, oh, it's so exhausting sometimes.
Yeah. And then another one I thought of was Tamaki's grandmother in Ouran High School Host Club.
I vaguely remember. I know that she's the worst and, makes his life so much harder, especially with everything. I don't exactly remember all of the details of it, but
no, that's a big character.
No, but that's definitely, you're right. That's a strict woman. And that's always disappointing when somebody's hurting that main character that you have really come to love and appreciate. And it's like, stop hurting my child. I'm trying to think of a villain that I really just made my skin crawl, but usually I love a good villain. I love to see a good villain on the screen. I would say that villains that I don't like are more ones that I don't find compelling, or villains that I just find annoying is usually my thing. Like when I think of them as whiny or something like that. Speaking of whiny, that just triggered a memory for me. There is one anime character, it was an anime first, and I think it was a manga adaptation afterward, which is Neon Genesis Evangelion. A lot of people don't like Shinji Ikari, and I will defend him, even though I don't agree with his choices. I understand what he's going through. And I think a lot of times people are watching it and they're not remembering that instead of how it is in a lot of different shonen animes where the main character is 14 or 15 and they're acting like superheroes that have everything together. Instead, they actually just let Shinji Ikari be a 14-year-old boy handling all of these problems. So I think if anything, it's just not liked because of the hyper-realistic nature of being a 14-year-old boy dealing with all of that trauma of trying to save the world.
Kind of on the same point of that, we could look at characters like Rachel from Tower of God. I don't know if you guys keep track with that, but like, yes, do I personally hate Rachel? Yes, but at the same time, is she continuously just hiding in Bam's shadow and trying to get out of that shadow? Yeah, so I could understand why she hates the main character. Like, even though Bam's a great guy, like, she's like, please let me shine just once. I just want to be myself instead of being behind you.
Yes. Oh, speaking of women that are not given their due in anime, there are so many. And I was looking down at, you were talking about Death Note before, and I know so many people hate Misa with reason. I mean, she's, oh, no spoilers. But if you do want to check out Death Note, it's a story about a teenage boy. He gets a notebook and it says within it, anybody who writes their name in this notebook will die. And the story goes on from there. Misa is a character in that. And I think that in general, she is really, really hated by the fandom. And I think that she's unduly hated compared to like all the other characters that might also do lots of bad, evil things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because of her behavior, basically. She just basically throws her life away.
Yeah, it's because of her behavior. She's very girly, and some of the choices she makes.
Yes.
And I think that leads to a lot of hate being thrown her way. I know Sakura from Naruto too gets a lot of hate thrown her way. That could be a whole podcast. So I don't know if we'll exactly go into that. But yeah, there's definitely characters. I think everybody has a character that they love to hate, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure there's somebody right now that actually I know somebody right now who would fight and defend Sasuke to me. And I will never get it. I will never get it. So Tom, you thought of a really cool question. Do you want to ask this one?
Okay, so this is, what's the coolest superpower or ability you've seen in animes or manga? Which power would you want to personally have if given the chance?
This was such a big question, and I really, really struggled with this one. So Kiara, do you have anything that you feel more solid ground about?
This was a really difficult question, but not necessarily a superpower, but an ability. I think Senku and Dr. Stone has the ability to just change his world just because he's smart. Like, I'm bad at science and math. So like, if I was in that world, I just would be like following. I'm a follower. But I think it's so cool. He's like literally reviving people and giving them life and making technology from nothing. That is so cool.
Absolutely. And you can actually, if you read the manga, you can actually learn a lot from it. So if you are into STEM concepts, I would definitely recommend Dr. Stone.
I'm not into STEM that much, but I watched the anime first. And
if you're not into STEM,
it's really good.
Absolutely. I love that. Instead of having a superpower, you're saying just having the smarts to manage that. That's cool. I instead was thinking more like what would make my life easier. So I immediately thought of Yaoyorozu from My Hero Academia, who can essentially just create things from her body. So as long as she's having like a good diet and is well fed, then she can just create things from her body. I think it has to be inorganic, so she can't create food, but she can create medicine and I don't know, whatever. I could create a book, I guess. I don't know, whatever I so desire. So I think that would be a great power to have. And maybe that makes me a little selfish, but that is the first thing that popped into my mind. I was like, yeah, Yaoyorozu's power is pretty OP.
My selfish power I would want is to teleport. Cheap travel.
Absolutely. I would save a fortune on gas. And I could also sleep in every morning, and that would be fantastic. Absolutely.
I can't think of any anime or manga characters who can teleport though.
Oh, there's plenty. I was trying to think of ones that could stop time, but a lot of the times they do put a damper on that. So like JoJo's, like you can stop time, but not for long. And I need to stop time for longer than that. I want to stop time so that way I can sleep in an extra 2 hours, if you can see what my priorities are.
That's fair. That's a pretty good one, though. I feel like the power also depends on what universe you're in, because if you're in something like My Hero Academia where everyone has quirks and
Mhm.
you pick something small, like you want to be able to lose weight instantly or something like Fat Gum, right?
Mhm.
Where he just manages to shed off weight. Like, yeah, that's really cool. But in the world of My Hero Academia, where people have super strength, can fly, like breathe underwater, it's like, wow, that's maybe not as great for me.
It's
So
not
it's like,
staked out, yeah.
yeah, so
Although he
it
uses it.
depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he uses it very good. So if it was in a world like that, I would probably want something like the looting ability from Charlotte. I don't know if you guys watched that one, but the main character is able to steal other people's powers.
Ooh, yes, the other people's power. That
Yep,
is
so
always a good one. If you live in a world where other people have powers, if you're the only one
exactly.
who have powers, then it's not so great.
Yeah. So if we didn't live in a world where other people also had the powers, I thought, obviously Nen from Hunter x Hunter would be cool because you could shape it into whatever you kind of want it to be,
Mhm.
because that depends on your training and what you envision your energy as and everything.
Yes, and used in really cool ways. Like, for example, you mentioned Hisoka before. You might hate him, but you got to admit that he is really creative with his powers.
Oh yeah,
And
that gum thing is really cool.
yes, and then Kaminari, I think is, oh no, that's a character from My Hero. But there's that power of Killua's with the lightning, and that is also an incredible. And I really love when powers are introduced in anime and manga, and that power is, instead of just being really strong, what it is that it's creative and it's something used in a really creative way. So an example of a power that's just really strong and really cool on its own, for example, would be bleach powers. A lot of powers in Bleach are like, wow, that's world breaking, but okay. Like Senran Zakura, one of the main characters of Byakuya, where he breaks up his sword into like 10,000 mini blades that he can control at will. It's like, okay, well, that's massive. And I do think that's cool visually. It's amazing. I will always love it. But I also really like characters that have kind of like a silly ability and they make it work for them in really, really cool and interesting ways by outsmarting or just being super creative. And that definitely comes to show with Nen powers and Hunter x Hunter. Another example of that is actually in One Piece. He has a very silly power. And One Piece is essentially the story of a kid, I don't know, I think he's 17, and he eats a fruit and it gives him gum powers, which essentially turns his body into rubber. And everybody else in the world has like massively stronger powers, like earthquake powers and things like that. And he's like, yeah, I'm a rubber man, and just uses that to kind of barrel through everything in his way. And he's been doing it for 20 years. Does anybody else have powers that might not necessarily want to have, but they think are like really cool? And they've really appreciated them, even if you wouldn't want it yourself?
There's a couple like minor quirks that wouldn't be like as good. Like the guy who takes the little balls off his head and it sticks. I can't even remember his name.
I don't either. Great boy.
Yeah.
So mad at us.
I definitely would not want that.
Oh yeah, bad powers. That's true. I didn't think of that. Powers that you're like, ooh, why would you want that?
I wouldn't want to be a demon. Demon Slayer.
Oh yeah, that's essentially like being a vampire. They can't be exposed to the sun, right?
And I mean, people are hunting you all the time.
And actively hunting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got Tanjiro hunting you. And another one that I couldn't recommend enough that's available, we have it on the shelf. We also have it available digitally, Demon Slayer. It is a great story. It's already been finished and wrapped up. And if Tanjiro was hunting me, I would relent just because he is so nice and he deserves everything. That's my opinion.
I feel like Tanjiro would probably try to recruit you instead of taking you down, honestly.
That's true. He's that nice. He's really that nice. He's a realist, but a very, very kind one. So he is absolutely a fantastic protagonist. I would not want to be a demon. I wouldn't want to be a demon slayer either. Going back to the isekai thing, but I also would not want to be a demon. You're right.
One of the older animes that I remember, like one of the comedy ones and everything that I wouldn't want was, I don't know, guys, if you have ever seen it, but Bobabo or something like that. I don't know how many Bobabos there are, but I know there's a lot. And the nose hair, I definitely wouldn't want that as a power.
No. Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think you got the right amount of bows, but I guess we'll see in post, right? Another power that, I wouldn't want to have, and one guy who turns his snot into bombs, bad. A lot of times you get weird powers like that because the author's going for a joke, and I understand that. I appreciate it. I don't want that power though. That opens up a whole bunch of different doors. There's also sometimes powers that like the cost of using them is just too high. Not necessarily a power, but in Spy Family, her athletic ability, incredible. I would love to be able to move and be acrobatic like that. That would be fantastic. I know that comes from a life of experience of doing the job that she does, which I won't spoil for you, but it is also incredible, also available digitally, and you definitely should give it a read. So I would enjoy having Yor's abilities. Maybe not so much Anya's.
There's benefits and downsides.
Yeah, so Anya is the other character in Spy Family, and she can read minds, but I don't think it's one of the things that she can really turn off. I feel like she's constantly reading minds, and that sounds exhausting to me. I would only want it if I could do it at will.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss at that point. I don't
Exactly.
want to know.
I don't need to know everything that everyone's thinking, especially just like out in public. Like, oh, I couldn't imagine.
I wouldn't want Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, that anime. Toru's cleaning spit ability. Like I definitely wouldn't want that either.
Yeah, they go with some weird ones. And again, I think it's because they're going for a laugh. So we talked about some powers we love, some powers we don't love, and some powers we'd like to have. Now, how about another thing that you might like to have? What would be an anime animal pet that you might like to have? I can think of 10,000. So I would always love to have more pets.
Any cat. I like cats. There's a lot of cute cats in anime and manga. There's one, a cat and gamer, that cute little tuxedo cat. And then like there's a lot of cute Pokemon. I would love a cute Pokemon. I'm biased. I only like the cute ones. An Eevee or a Pikachu or a Bulbasaur. They're so cute.
Okay, that does open up a whole nother question that I do want to ask, and then we'll get back to the animal pet. But I need to know what everyone's favorite evolution is.
That is a solid question right there.
Yeah. So mine is a Flareon, which I feel like is not generally the most popular. Generally, if you ask people, they pick, like a Leafeon or Sylveon.
Or Umbreon.
Or Umbreon. I love Umbreon too. But yeah, if I had to pick my favorite, it would be Flareon. Just so cute.
Vaporeon.
Vaporeon. Okay, yeah.
They're all cute.
They are. It is hard to pick. How about you, Tom? Do you have a favorite evolution?
It'd probably be either the pink one with the two tails, Espeon.
Espeon,
right?
the psychic one, yeah.
Yeah, I think I like that one, or the dark black one with the circles on it, Umbreon, I think it was.
Umbreon, yeah.
Yeah, one of those two would be my favorite. It's like the whole shape of them, like it looks really cool. With all of their ears are long and everything, but I just think they really stand out. But they're also more basic than the other ones because you got like Jolteon with the giant jolts of electricity, like fur. And Leafeon looks really cool with the leaves coming off and that effect. But I think I just like the little easy ones that don't pop out as much, honestly.
That look like a kind of a cat, but just
right,
slightly altered. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
It's okay. And then I guess this would be an isekai version thing too, but Polar Bear Cafe. Have you ever seen that? I would love to have a panda. They're so cute.
Yeah, unfortunately, not so many of them around, but a polar bear cafe is so cute and such like a happy, cozy little thing.
I'd love to just like walk around and like be in that world and like see all the animals all the time and interact with them.
Mhm.
They're not violent.
Yes, they're all just so peaceful. They just,
Yeah.
they just go have tea and there's no problems. I do love that. You mentioned cats, so I do want to ask you, have you seen Sailor Moon?
Yes.
Okay.
Luna and Artemis. They're
So if you
cute.
had to pick one, which one would you want as a pet? Ooh.
I don't
Question.
know. I like all cats, so I would
Mhm.
take both. Have you seen Hardcaptor Sakura?
Yes.
I did write this one down.
Mhm.
I like Mokono.
Mm-hmm.
Mokono would be a cool anime pet to have, especially black Mokonos and Holic,
Mm-hmm.
because he can see ghosts and teleport objects to white Mokono.
Yes, that is true. I forgot that Black Mokina had those powers. White Mokina, as far as I can remember, Cardcatcher Sakura, the most important thing being that you must feed him cake.
Yeah.
Would get really upset if she didn't bring cake back for him. So
White Mokono like sweets, black Mokono like salty. They're so cute.
yes, Mokinas are very cute. Now, shoujo pet, that's not a shoujo, honestly, but a shoujo pet that you maybe don't want to have would be like Madoka Magica. I don't remember the animal name, and I do think it is just Madoka. But Tom, have you seen or no?
I don't think I watched that one. That one gets really dark, doesn't it?
It does. So it is a magical girl anime, but anybody who really is into magical girl animes, if you want something light and fluffy like Sailor Moon, watch Cardcaptor Sakura. If you want something that is Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura flipped on its head violently, that's Madoka Magica. So
I think that's exactly why I didn't watch it.
yes. So
it was dark.
Yeah, so again, I do really love it and I would recommend it, but don't go into it expecting all cheer. And that is definitely a cute little anime companion that I wouldn't want to have. So we mentioned Luna. Oh, so I love cats, I love dogs, I love all animals. I love little Ein from Cowboy Bebop just because, I don't know, he's so cute. And it just him wandering around this spaceship and there's everybody else going through all of their different space drama. And then there's little Ein, who also actually technically has his own space drama in a way, because I think that he is some sort of altered dog. But regardless, Ein is otherwise just a normal dog that they just have on the spaceship. And I love that like sense of normalcy that he brings to the story. Another pet that I would love to have would be Kirara from Inuyasha. Giant, fluffy, lovable, can fly. I mean, what else do you want?
That's fair. That's pretty much the whole package right there. Speaking about flying people, technically Avatar obviously isn't an anime, but the first thing I think about when I think of animated companion, I think of Appa, because giant flying bison, like what's better? You don't have to wait in line, you don't have to drive to work or anything, you got a flying bison that you would just take.
Absolutely. And also lovable, fluffy, can fly. So
right,
we've covered the bases again.
But specifically from animes, if I had to have one, let's see, maybe Pack from Re:Zero, the little floating cat guy. Yeah, he's really cute and he could actually enlarge himself. And I thought that scene was pretty funny because, that's a world of magic and everything. Pretty much almost anything could happen.
Yeah.
And he would also like watch over you very loyally, like, if you were his friend. So I did definitely like him. I also thought of other cute little sentient creatures who could actually like speak to you, where they still consider them like kind of pets, would be like Happy from Fairy Tale. Like, once again, flying, very good comedy relief, just a generally good companion. And same with, I think Hawks from the Seven Deadly Sins would be funny too.
Yeah.
The little pig guy. Yeah, so he's actually a pig from the human realm.
Well, what about Hawks's parent? Is that giant, the one that walks around, right? With the inn on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they said. I can't remember though. I know that he had a I think he had a brother in the demon realm.
Okay.
And they actually like went over that when Bond went to the demon realm. to
Oh,
save
wow.
Meliodas.
Okay. Well, I'm not caught up. I've only seen the first season. So, but I do
If I knew that, I wouldn't have said anything.
So, no, it's fine.
Sorry.
It's a cute little pig, though. I do love hawks. And you mentioned Happy from Fairy Tale, and those are flying cats. Again, that can talk. Why would you ever complain?
Right. Agreed.
You're like, your life is perfect. You have a flying, talking cat. It's wonderful. A pet that is just essentially a pet in anime is Satomaru from Gintama. And I think it's Satomaru or Satoharu. I cannot remember. And I'm sorry about that because Gintama is one of my favorite animes. But they essentially just have a dog. It's just a giant dog, is all it is. And then they otherwise just go about their daily life. But the dog is not in any way smarter, stronger than a giant dog would be. Still needs to be taken on walks, et cetera, and it has behavioral issues, as dogs generally sometimes do if you don't train them at all. So I do love Satoharu and Gintama because they just have a really cute relationship with the one young girl character, and it just brings some wholesomeness. It makes it feel like a family. So closing up, I figured we could just take some time to talk about some really great mangas/animes that we've been exposed to, that we can find here at OCL, and just give like a brief summation of what we would be recommending our listeners to check out.
I would definitely recommend Demon Slayer, like it was brought up before. Definitely one of the peak animes and mangas that are coming out right now. It'll probably go on for quite a bit longer. Same with My Hero Academia. That one's going to go on for longer too. That one's definitely good. And I think the whole concept of battling demons and just being a normal human with a sword, that you learn like these awesome techniques and breathing styles to keep up with them, like that's just really interesting because they don't have powers or anything to deal with these encounters with these demons. No, it's just really their pure spirit and determination which is fueling them. And I thought that was just really interesting. That one I definitely recommend if people haven't read or watched it. I would also definitely recommend Jujutsu Kaisen. That one, kind of the same concept of like yokai demon-esque thing, but more like an exorcist style, very modern time period too. So if you'd like something like that, a bit more close to our time period, I would definitely recommend that.
Absolutely. Both of those are incredible. And I know we have them both at OCL, and we both have them in digitally. And I think digitally, I have the entire collection of Demon Slayer. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we should have it because I do think it has finished up by now. The manga, that is. The anime will still be ongoing for some time. How about you, Kiara? What is your titles that you would like to recommend?
I mentioned it a couple times, but Bakuman, some shoujo, which is for girls usually. I really like Library Wars, Love and Lore. It's an older series, but it's about, in Japan, they pass a law, the Media Betterment Act, where they censor words and certain titles of books and magazines and TV, and libraries come out against that. And so they try to protect materials, and things escalate so much that they end up having a standing army to protect books and magazines. And it's really interesting. You wouldn't think it's a shoujo, but it is. That's a really good one. And then My Love Story, that's a really cute one. Have you read it?
I haven't. I've read Library Wars, though. And I absolutely love Library Wars. And I would say actually that you can tell there's a lot of love for libraries and for intellectual freedom and books in that story, as well as compelling characters.
Yes. My Love Story is a cute story between a really cute girl and this big guy who plays judo. He's not the typical shoujo protagonist, but he is really the main character. It's his love story, and it's a successful one, but it's so cute.
I have actually watched a couple episodes of it. Once you start describing it, I remembered. That is a fun one.
The anime is very good too.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yes. So one that I would definitely recommend would be Spy Family. That's one that we do have digitally as well as in print. And that one, I think I mentioned before, we have Yor, and she has lots of acrobatic talents. I won't go into why. But the other main character is Lloyd Forger is the name that he goes by, and he's a spy on a mission, and it's kind of like Cold War era-esque. And part of his mission is that he has to essentially have like a pseudo family. So he gets Yor, which is going to be his pseudo wife, and then he adopts Anya, and Anya just happens to be able to read minds. So she doesn't necessarily reveal this, but that's part of their story. And they all have their own little secrets from each other. Meanwhile, he's trying to carry out his mission as a spy, and it's full of like lots of really cool action. And at the same point, there's definitely that touch of the coziness, the slice of life, and just funny comedic moments that really, I think, pull it together for all different readers coming from all different interests. Another one that I would recommend that we have both digitally and in print is Komi Can't Communicate. And they also did a fantastic job with the anime adaptation recently. Komi Can't Communicate is about a girl who has social anxiety, and everybody thinks that she's just super cool and aloof, and then because she's super pretty, and so they just think that she's like cool and aloof, or that she doesn't want to talk to them or something like that. But actually the truth of the matter is that she really, really wants to make 100 friends before she graduates high school. And she eventually gets brave enough to kind of talk / like write notes back and forth to our main character. And he takes upon this mission to help her make 100 friends. It's so heartwarming. It does try to show some of the issues that people with social anxiety really struggle with, like ordering something at Starbucks even can be really stressful sometimes. And it does a great job of telling that story, and it's really, really heartwarming. It's definitely a shoujo, but I think it's full of a lot of loves and a lot of laughs. Those would be my recommendations. And I could recommend a whole bunch of really, really old ones, really classic ones that I love. But I was trying to think of some newer ones, that I could always talk about One Piece or Naruto or Sailor Moon until the sun goes down.
Yeah, if they wanted something like nice and quick, just video to get into something, like we said before, I brought up the Silent Voice. I know that we do have that. That's about a deaf girl. She transfers into a new school, meets this one boy, and then he starts bullying her with a couple of his classmates until she transfers into a different school. And then, considering the bullying gets found out, he gets bullied by the people he thought he was friends with, who were also bullying that girl. And then it gets really difficult because he kind of loses touch with everyone, and he has to suffer the consequences of this guilt. And then he ends up deciding that he has to make amends for what he's done. And then, in my opinion, he definitely does at the end. And it's very touching. And if you want to cry, I mean, this is definitely a little movie to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great movie. That's true. There's also lots of great movies out there.
I know we do have some animes on Hoopla, so you can even watch anime on the go. Like Hunter x Hunter is on Hoopla.
Yep, so is Naruto, actually, at the beginning of Naruto. Not the whole thing, but there's a good amount of Naruto's episodes on Hoopla. So if you go to Hoopla under TV, genres and collections, you'll find one of the collections is anime. And yeah, we have some anime episodes available on Hoopla. So if you don't want to check them out or you don't have any streaming services, we do have some available for streaming, and you can cast Hoopla to your TV. And some TVs actually have Hoopla apps. So check that out. Thank you.
Yeah. And then we have a bunch of manga series on Overdrive, Libby.
Yes.
So those are really convenient.
Yes, so on your Libby app, we do have some manga series that you can check out. There's also lots of graphic novels and series like that available on Hoopla. So you can check them out digitally, and then of course you can see if we have them in print here on the shelves, if that's your preferred modus operandi. Thanks for listening. Be sure to visit our website, theoceancountylibrary.org/teens/FanNation for a listing of all the events that are happening this year. Most titles mentioned on today's episode can be accessed free with your library card. Until next time, have a fantastic day.